Have you ever thought about the sun and your fertility? Sounds a little out there, right? Well, today, we're going to connect those dots. We're diving deep into this really fascinating link between vitamin D, the sunshine vitamin, and a super important fertility marker, AMH. This is a topic that's getting a ton of attention, so let's unpack it together.
Okay, so let's just ask the question straight up. How in the world is the sunshine vitamin connected to your fertility? I get it, it sounds like two completely different worlds, but believe it or not, when you start looking at the science, this incredible story emerges that links them, and it's way more direct than you might think. So let's dive in.
All right, first things first. Before we get into all the sciencey details, we've got to meet the key players in this story. So, on one side, you've got AMH, or Anti Müllerian Hormone. People often call it the fertility forecast. And on the other side, we have good old vitamin D, which everyone knows is the body's multitasker, right? Famous for bone health and all that.
Let's talk a bit more about AMH. The best way to think about it is like a snapshot of your ovarian reserve. It's a hormone that's made in your ovarian follicles, and a quick blood test gives us an idea of the number of eggs you have left. Now, and this is a really important point, it tells us about the quantity, but it doesn't really tell us about the quality of those eggs. Okay, and then there's vitamin D. We all know it's crucial for calcium and keeping our bones strong. But here's the plot twist. Its receptors, these little landing pads for the vitamin, are found in so many other places, including, you guessed it, the ovaries. This discovery was huge because it suggested vitamin D has a much bigger job in our bodies.
Okay, so what is this secret biological link? How do these two actually connect on a biological level? Well, the answer is pretty amazing. It's literally written into our genes.
So what's the direct evidence? How do we know this isn't just a coincidence? Well, it turns out there's a specific molecular reason they're connected. It's not just a guess.
Okay, this is so cool. The gene that's responsible for making AMH actually has a special docking station just for vitamin D. It's called a vitamin D response element. What this means is that vitamin D can literally attach itself to the gene and influence how much AMH gets produced. It's a direct line of communication.
And it's not just at the genetic level. These vitamin D receptors are all over the place in the reproductive system. We're talking the ovaries, the follicles themselves, even the granulosa cells that support the eggs. The whole system is basically wired to listen to what vitamin D has to say. All right, so the biological link is there. That's pretty clear. But what happens when we look at actual studies with real people? This is where the story gets, well, a little complicated. Let's decode the evidence.
Check this out. There was one study that was pretty mind-blowing. They gave young women a high dose of vitamin D, and in just 1 week, their AMH levels increased by an average of almost 13%. That's a really significant jump.
But, and this is a big but, for every study like that one, there are a bunch of others that found nothing. No significant correlation at all. So you have some studies showing a big effect and others showing basically zero effect. What gives?
Okay, now this is where things get really fascinating. The effect seems to totally change depending on who we're talking about. For women without PCOS, some studies found that vitamin D supplementation was associated with an increase in AMH. But for women with PCOS, who often have really high AMH to begin with, it was associated with a decrease. It's almost like it's trying to balance things out.
So, yeah, things are all over the map. Why the conflicting results? Let's try to put it all together.
So why are the results so complicated? Well, it's because this isn't a simple one-to-one relationship. It's not like you just add vitamin D and poof, AMH goes up. There are a ton of other factors at play. I mean, think about it. Your PCOS status, what your starting vitamin D level is, your age, your BMI, your ethnicity, even the season of the year. All of these things can influence what happens. It's incredibly complex. This has led scientists to this idea called the normalizing effect theory. And it's a really cool way to think about it. The idea is that vitamin D might act less like a booster and more like a thermostat. If AMH is too high, like in PCOS, it helps bring it down. If it's low, it might help bring it up. It's working to find that just right zone.
Okay, and this is a really crucial point. A change in your AMH level on paper doesn't automatically mean there's a change in the actual number of eggs you have. AMH is a marker, so changing the marker doesn't guarantee you're changing the underlying quantity or quality. It's a super important distinction to keep in mind.
So, after all that,
What's your practical takeaway? What does this actually mean for you?
Okay, let's break it down into a few clear steps. 1. If you know you have low AMH, it's probably a good idea to get your vitamin D level checked out. 2. And this is non-negotiable. Always talk to your doctor before you start taking any supplements. 3. It's important to manage your expectations. Vitamin D isn't some magic cure for ovarian reserve. And 4. Remember to focus on your overall health. This is just one piece of a much bigger puzzle.
Which brings us all the way back to the big question we started with. So, is vitamin D the answer for low AMH?
The takeaway is this. It's not a magic bullet, but it is a really important and, more importantly, an optimizable piece of the reproductive health puzzle. The connection is absolutely there, but it's complicated. So focusing on getting your vitamin D levels into a healthy range, especially if you have a deficiency, is a really positive and proactive step you can take.
So there you have it. I really hope this look into the connection between vitamin D and AMH has been helpful. And just as a final, very important note, please remember that this whole discussion is for educational purposes only. It is absolutely not a substitute for professional medical advice. For more information about the complete IVF process, you can find a ton of great resources over at ivfforme.com. Thanks so much for tuning in.